I couldn't escape this gas station, and things got scary fast. The rumble in my gut wasn't just hunger. It was the kind of hollow dread that settles in when you know, deep down, you've made a wrong turn somewhere. Figuratively, and now, very literally. My '98 Corolla, affectionately nicknamed the Vomit Comet for its unfortunate color and tendency to protest uphill climbs, coughed and sputtered, the engine light flashing like a frantic disco ball. I was miles from anywhere, the GPS signal long gone, swallowed by the dense, skeletal trees lining this barely there state route in West Virginia. Finally, with a dramatic, theatrical sigh, the Vomit Comet gave up the ghost. I coasted onto the gravel shoulder, the silence that followed deafening. The only landmark was the flickering neon sign in the distance. Last stop. Last stop. Even the name felt ominous. I trudged the 100 yards to the gas station, the cold seeping into my thin sweater. The place was a relic. 2 rusty pumps stood sentinel outside a dilapidated building with peeling paint and a grime-coated window. The air smelled of gasoline and something else, something acrid and faintly metallic. Inside, the fluorescent lights hummed with an unsettling buzz. Rows of dusty snacks and dented soda cans lined the shelves. A lone figure stood behind the counter, an elderly man with a stooped posture and eyes that seemed to absorb all the light in the room. He wore a faded uniform with a name tag that read, Jedediah. "Car trouble?" he asked, his voice raspy like dry leaves skittering across pavement. "You could say that," I replied, trying to sound more upbeat than I felt. "Died about 100 yards back. Any chance you have a mechanic around?" Jedediah. Jed, I decided. Just stared, his eyes unblinking. "Mechanic only comes Tuesdays and Fridays. Today's Sunday." "Sunday. Of course." "Great," I muttered, rubbing my temples. "Cell service is non-existent, I take it?" He nodded, a slow, deliberate movement. "Mountains interfere. You're on your own out here, girl. On my own." The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken implications. I bought a lukewarm bottle of water and a bag of stale chips, trying to formulate a plan. Jed watched me the entire time, his gaze unsettlingly intense. "Anything else I can do for you, miss?" he asked as I turned to leave. "Maybe. Is there a payphone anywhere? I could call someone." He chuckled, a dry, rattling sound. "Payphone? You're a long way from civilization, honey." That went out with dial-up. Back at the car, I tried the engine again, just in case. Nothing. I popped the hood, staring at the chaotic jumble of wires and hoses, feeling completely helpless. I knew next to nothing about cars. As dusk settled, the temperature plummeted. The gas station lights cast long, distorted shadows across the gravel. I walked back inside, shivering. "Got a room?" I asked Jed. It was a long shot, but I was out of options. He pointed to a door at the back of the store. "Got one. Bare bones, but it's shelter. $40. $40 I didn't really have, but shelter was worth it. The room was worse than I'd imagined. A single stained mattress on a metal frame, a rickety chair, and a bare bulb hanging from the ceiling. The air smelled damp and musty. I tried the window. Nailed shut. Panic started to claw at the edges of my composure. I spent the evening trying the radio in my car. Static. Just static. Then, a voice, distorted and low, cutting through the noise. It didn't say anything comprehensible, just a garbled, rhythmic chanting. I turned it off, my skin crawling. Later, I went back to the store for another bottle of water. Jed was sitting on a stool behind the counter, cleaning a hunting knife. The sight made me jump. "Everything all right, miss?" he asked, his voice deceptively gentle. "Just thirsty." He watched me as I paid, his eyes gleaming in the dim light. "You shouldn't wander around out there at night. Things ain't always what they seem in these parts." I locked myself in the room, pushing the chair against the door. The chanting from the radio echoed in my head, mixing with the rustling of leaves outside. I barely slept. The next morning, I tried to flag down any passing cars. Hours went by. Nothing. The road was deserted. Desperate, I decided to try to siphon gas from one of the pumps. Maybe it was just an empty tank. But as I wrestled with the hose, a sharp pain shot through my hand. I looked down to see a rusty nail sticking out of the pump, drawing blood. "Damn it," I yelled, sucking on my injured finger. Jed emerged from the store, a strange smile on his face. "Having some trouble, are we?" I glared at him. "This place is a death trap, just a little, unlucky," he said, his voice laced with something I couldn't quite place. That afternoon, a semi-truck pulled into the gas station. The driver, a woman with weathered features and a no-nonsense demeanor, introduced herself as Martha. "Car trouble?" she asked, echoing Jed's earlier words. "You have no idea," I replied, relief flooding through me. Martha was a godsend. She knew her way around engines. Together we spent hours trying to diagnose the problem. But every time we fixed one thing, something else broke. A wire snapped, a hose burst, a bolt stripped. It was like the car was actively fighting us. "This is weird," Martha said, scratching her head. "I've never seen anything like it." As darkness fell, Martha told me about the local legends surrounding the gas station. Rumors of it being built on sacred ground, of sacrifices made to appease something. I tried to dismiss it as folklore, but a chill ran down my spine. "Look, kid," Martha said, her voice serious. "I don't know what's going on here, but something ain't right. I'm gonna try to get to the next town, get some help." "You stay put. Lock yourself in that room." I didn't want her to leave, but I couldn't ask her to stay. It was getting dangerous. Martha climbed into her truck, started the engine, and it died. Just like that, dead silent. Her face paled. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." She tried again. Nothing. We stared at each other, the realization sinking in. We were both trapped. Back in the room, the radio started up on its own, the garbled chanting filling the air. Then, the voice, clearer this time, speaking directly to me. "Sarah," it whispered, "you can't leave. This is where you belong." I screamed, throwing the radio against the wall. It shattered into pieces, but the chanting continued, seemingly coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. The next few hours were a blur of terror. I saw shadows moving outside the window, heard whispers just beyond the door. The voice taunted me, revealing things about my past, my fears, my insecurities. It knew me better than I knew myself. Martha tried to barricade the door, but something was pushing from the other side. A slow, relentless pressure. Then, a blood-curdling scream from Martha. I rushed to her side. She was lying on the floor, clutching her leg, her face contorted in pain. An unseen force had attacked her. I knew I couldn't stay here. I had to get out. I remembered something Martha had said about the gas station being built on sacred ground. Maybe there was a way to appease whatever was haunting this place. I ran to the store, ignoring the voice's taunts. Jed was gone. The counter was empty. I searched frantically, finally finding a hidden door behind a shelf of motor oil. Inside was a small, dusty room filled with strange artifacts, animal skulls, dried herbs, symbols carved into wooden tablets. It was like a twisted, pagan altar. I grabbed a handful of herbs, a rabbit's foot, anything that felt potent. Then, I ran back to the car, ignoring the pain in my legs, the pounding in my chest. I threw the herbs onto the engine, chanting the first prayer that came to mind. A childhood rhyme, a forgotten hymn, anything to ward off the evil. The engine sputtered, coughed. Then, with a roar, it came to life. I dragged Martha into the car, slamming the door behind us. I didn't look back as I sped away, the tires spitting gravel. The voice followed us, a constant whisper in my ear. But the further we drove, the fainter it became. We made it to a town, finally. A real town, with lights and people and hope. I dropped Martha off at the hospital. As I drove away, I looked back. The town faded into the distance, leaving me alone on the dark highway. I glanced in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see the last stop looming behind me. But there was nothing, just the endless stretch of road. I thought I was safe. I thought I had escaped. But then, the radio in my car crackled to life, and I heard the voice again, whispering my name.